Howdy, folks. Would you Walls from NeedCoffee.com here. Back again for another Wayhomer review. Here's how it works for the uninitiated. I have just seen a film. I have literally just walked out of the cinema, which is over there, having seen the film. And I'm going to tell you about that film on my way home. And that's the protocol. And today we're here to talk about the remake of Evil Dead. Okay, so, synopsis. Synopsis is, 5 people, friends, more or less, go to a cabin in the woods, not the film, but a literal cabin in the woods, for a little rest and relaxation. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I didn't know anything else going in, and that was quite pleasant. But anyway, so they're there to take some time off, shall we say, and they stumble across something that is incredibly evil. And like most incredibly evil things, it starts to do evil things. And evil, horrible things happen to them, and hijinks ensue. I mean, it's a pretty basic plot. 5 people, horrific things happen. There you go. Okay. I was worried about this film because I actually really like the first 2 Evil Dead films. Because they were goofy and fun. The first Evil Dead was like more horrific than goofy, but you couldn't get over the goofiness of it because they shot it on no budget, and you had to be having fun in order to forget about, let's face it, the claymation monsters and stuff at the end of it, for that not to take you out of the film, even now, because you're having a good time. And then the sequel was the perfect blend of horror and comedy. Not, completely comedy, but just goofy, sort of over the top. So over the top that it did not completely gross you out. You know what I mean? Because it was so over the top. But enjoyable, okay? And I don't know, Army of Darkness was funny and fun, but it went so far to the comedic side of things that it sort of lost me. I don't like it as much. But it's sort of impossible not to like something that Bruce Campbell's in. I think there's a law. So I was very apprehensive about this because other, really solid classic horror films that have been remade just haven't worked out very well. I won't mention any names because that would be indiscreet. Night of the Living Dead, 1990. What the? Anyway, so sorry, Tom. So I was very apprehensive, especially because the trailers made it look like that they had essentially taken the notion of Evil Dead and extracted all of the fun out of it and merely replaced it with, it's like somebody watched Evil Dead and only saw the bits about the gore and dismemberment and whatnot, and missed all the fun of it, right? And I thought, okay, maybe that's what the film's going to be. That's what the trailer's portraying it as. Well, here's the points that I will give this film. At least the trailer was honest. Because, basically, that's what it is. If you are into nail guns being used repeatedly, where you can see everything, including the extraction of the nails, then this film is for you. If you are into limbs being severed, realistically severed, and being able to see pretty much everything as it happens, then this film is for you. If you are into just if you've ever watched something awful happening on screen and went, you know, if that was really happening, a character would piss themselves. If you've ever thought that, this film is for you. If you, and I'm not giving anything away here because it's, you know, you either know what this means or you don't. But if you watched the first Vine attack and went, you know what this needs? This needs to be more like hentai, or however the hell you pronounce it. You know I can pronounce anything. But you know what I'm talking about. If you thought, man, this isn't enough like disturbing Japanese animation. If you thought that, then this film is for you, okay? Now, I don't know about you, but that stuff, that sort of film, this sort of film, I don't find horrific. I know a lot of people will find this sort of film to be horrific. Me, I just find it tedious. Because you can only play the gore, dismemberment, you know, torturous, cleaving things apart card so many times before I'm completely numb to it, and I'm just going, okay, well now something else horrible is going to happen, and something horrible is going to happen, and I mean, this is like the longest 90-minute film I've sat through in a long time, okay? Because it was just so boring. Now for me, now lest you think, oh, you just don't like, you don't like to see blood and guts on the screen. You know what? I don't like to see blood and guts on the screen if you think that a horror film is just blood and guts. Because to me, I don't find that necessarily horrific. There's a certain point at which you just go numb, and it's meaningless. You know, another limb is being severed. It doesn't mean anything anymore. To me, the horrific bits are when, and again, I'm not giving anything away. It's in the trailer. It's obvious this is happening from the trailer. But when the demons start playing with your mind, when they start acting like they're okay, when they start talking about your dead relatives, when they start screwing with your head, that to me is horror. That's horrific. That, you can play that card pretty much as you want, and it won't go stale for me. But there's a certain point at which you just go, oh, this is ridiculous. What are we doing here? Why am I here? So, I mean, that's my major problem with the film. It literally is, take the first two films, stick them in a blender, suck out all the fun stuff, and just replace it with, you know, explicit gore and dismemberment. It's tedious and frustrating. So, it's like, you know what, I'm enjoying this traffic jam more than I did this film. Anyway, so how many other reviewers can say that in the middle of a review? I ask you. And here's the other thing too, okay? And this is what I find frustrating. First of all, the film does not have, you know, no redeeming qualities, does not have no English degree. It has a few redeeming qualities in that you've got Jane Levy, whatever, who is in essence your lead, who can play crazy like nobody's business. I mean, she's freaking creepy, okay? She is great. And the rest of the cast are fine, but she is standout and she is great, okay? And the setup is great, in that you might be thinking to yourself, I wonder why 5 people would go to the middle of the woods into some crazy rundown cabin, and why would they stay there? Why would anyone in 2013, and I'm assuming this is set in the present day, why would anyone do that? I mean, unless they're like, you know, shooting a reality TV show or something. They came up with a really good answer for that, where you go, okay, this is starting to make sense. But here's the problem. It was extremely helpful when I read somewhere that in an interview, Robert Kirkman, creator of Walking Dead, said that The Walking Dead was taking place, in essence, both the comic book and the TV series, right? Both of those stories are happening in worlds where there is no zombie subgenre of fiction, right? It's not like if zombies rose today, we would all know to at least try to you know, shoot them in the head, right? unless it's Return of the Living Dead, and then we're all screwed. But I mean, we'd at least try, you know what I mean? We would know from the get-go. I don't think there's anybody around who wouldn't know to try that. I mean, my grandmother would know to try that at this point, okay? So that would explain why there's all this thing about, oh my God, well, don't get bitten. That's news. Oh, well, you need to shoot him in the head. That's news. You know what I mean? They don't know. They have had no fiction to teach them. The only way this film makes any sense whatsoever, from a since you've already set it up to make it semi-realistic, okay? Apart from the fact that you've got pretty much anything, any character note moments are just this side of being, you know, really, scenes with characters talking where you just know, you can feel that it's the writers trying to compress some sort of backstory or some sort of something, so you actually feel like they're not cardboard cutouts. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much every scene in which two people are talking and it's not about death or demons or fire, okay? The only way this film makes any sense whatsoever is if you realize, and I came to this realization, this must be taking place in a world in which there have never been any horror movies at all. The horror genre, all of it, doesn't exist. Every single movie that comes out is a comedy. Every single movie that comes out in the world of the Evil Dead remake is like a fluffy, it's like a When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail. By law, that's the only thing that you can put out. And the reason I say that is because after setting up a really good reason for them to be there, they give them a really good reason to leave, okay? When they can apparently still leave, okay? And the fact that they don't leave makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. To the point where I just went, what? I mean, that was the first thing to take me out of the film, before it was just like, I don't know, it was a bloodbath on the screen and a bloodbath on the screen. It's kind of like a blood Olympic-sized swimming pool on the screen. It was like that show Splash that's on now about the diving. It's like that, but with blood, okay? But with no Louis Anderson. So, I mean, that's it. It's a good setup, a decent idea. They could have actually done something with it, but they didn't. It stretches credibility. I know you're thinking, well, there's demons. You're okay with that? Actually, yeah. If the rules of the universe allow for demons, then I'm fine with that, okay? But the rules of the universe that you've set up means that when you see something like they saw, you leave. It makes no sense whatsoever. That and it's. I mean, there's just. It's like people must have stock in fake blood. You know. It just doesn't work for me. Now I realize it may work for a lot of you. So if the sort of film that I've described to you works for you, and I'm not going to judge you because some people find that's their idea of the horror genre. I think it's sad if that's what the horror genre is these days, okay? But if that's your idea of horror, then knock yourself out. You're going to love it. But if your idea of horror is to not see every freaking thing, okay, and leave something to the imagination, which makes it worse if it's in your imagination. Because I got a pretty screwed up imagination, and if you're watching this, you probably do too, okay? If that's your idea of horror, then for God's sake, stay away, because you're just going to be disappointed. I mean, that's it. So, I mean, cup-wise, I literally, for half of the film, was sitting there bored out of my mind. Because it was just, okay, well, here comes the next awful thing, whatever. It's like only the 25th awful thing so far. I'm going to give it half a cup for Jane Levy's performance, because I thought she was great, but I can't give it anything else. Sorry. So, yeah, there you go. It was It was about what I expected, and it was worse than I feared. So anyway, there you have it. I look forward to your letters. That's another Wayhomer review in the can. If you, as always, if you enjoy these things, please let somebody know. Use social media. Flick it, flip it, tweet it, whatever it is the kids are doing these days. Do that. And as always, if you want to help support these things, because I am paying for these out of pocket, $9 for a 10:20 a.m. That's not even a matinee. That's nearly a midnight show as far as I'm concerned. $9. $9 to sit with an elderly couple. I don't even know if they knew why they were there, and someone who brought their 5-year-old kid. So he's going to grow up to be a serial killer. So anyway, yes, if you want to support financially, that would be great. I would really appreciate it. Needcoffee.com/support is where you can go and do that. So again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Wayhomer Reviews. Bye.